Hey everybody, so today I am going to do a short demo on the probably the most talked about Oracle product by Oracle and by customers themselves, and that's the Oracle Autonomous Database. So I do have to distinguish that we have a data warehouse and we also have an OLTP Autonomous Database. So the one I'm going to create today is actually a, data warehouse optimized for analytics and data storage. So if you can see me on the console now, I'm just playing around, and by the end of the day, I want you to be able to provision an autonomous data warehouse and be able to connect to it with SQL Developer that we're all used to, and then also be able to connect with an analytics tool. And in this case, you could use Oracle Analytics Cloud or Data Visualization Desktop. You can use other tools as well that you're used to, like Tableau or Power BI, other things like that. But I just have a Data Visualization Desktop on my desktop, so that's what I'll use. If you can see me now, I'm just about to create a data warehouse, so there's very little information required. One thing I will say is just make sure that when you enter the password I'm about to enter now, that you note it down in a safe place. Apologies, just note it down in a safe place because you will need that when you're connecting with SQL Developer for the first time and your data visualization tool. I'm just going to click on one of these links here just to give you some more information. You can see our friend Larry here talking about the Oracle data warehouse. There's a lot of publicity being around that. While I'm just about to provision the data warehouse, I just wanted to point to the Oracle Cloud Cost Estimator. I may as well just initialize this first, because you have two consumption models, either license included or just full provision licenses with your data warehouse. So while that's provisioning, I'm just going to go into the cost estimator. Should load up pretty quickly. Yeah, okay, there I have it. So you can see here you have the own option of bringing your own license, which you may have from Standard Edition, Standard Edition 1, Standard Edition 2, and Enterprise Edition database on-premise to bring that to the Oracle Cloud, or else you can just start fresh. So there's very little information that you need to put into the cost estimator just to get an accurate price, because you do get also 1 terabyte of storage, and the Oracle data warehouse runs on Exadata infrastructure, so it's purpose-built infrastructure for the Oracle database. And looking at the cost estimator now, you can see about $1,400–$300. That's monthly flex, so it's a discounted rate from pay-as-you-go. So that's what you could be paying a month for this service. So really cheap. And now my data warehouse has been provisioned, so it's provisioned. Usually takes 2–3 minutes to provision. And just looking at DB connection here, so this is where you download your Java client credentials, and you can see there's a couple of different services. So you have high, medium, and low, and these are pretty important because when you connect to your data warehouse, you have the option of choosing which role. So high will obviously give you the most highest amount of not privileges, but basically CPU power and resources. So your user will have the most amount of computing power accessible to them. But if you want many users to access the database and share resources, then you would choose the low option. So that's how that works. Okay, so now that I have my DB connection wallet, I'm going to open up SQL Developer. I just unzipped it there just to show you the what's inside the wallet. So if you're ever logged into a DB server, you will have seen the TNS names.r file and a couple of these files. I'm just going to close down a couple of tabs that I have open here. But what we want to do is connect to the data warehouse in the cloud, just to show you how quick this can be done. So obviously I'm just going to hit a new database connection. You can choose cloud connection if you want. I just typically use a database connection and make my changes here. Sorry there. Connection name, you can give it anything. There's no real constraints here. Let's just call it ADW demo or something like this. Username is admin. So admin was present when we launched it in the console, so you didn't have a choice. Admin was the default user. And now I'm just going to choose Cloud Wallet, and I'm going to scroll down to the wallet that I downloaded from the Oracle Cloud Console, And then this is where the service names, these are where it's important. So obviously if you're just an admin going in, you may as well choose the high service, but if there's many people going in, I would make sure to choose the low so you can share resources. So you can see that I'm connected now, so let me just save that for future future demos. I'm just going to save that connection because it's configured. So now let's connect to the database and see what's in there. By default, I think when you provision a data warehouse, autonomous data warehouse, there's a couple of million rows of data in there just for you to mess around with. But now I'm just going to look at, while that's loading up, I'm going to look into my service connection. So this is similar to Oracle Enterprise Manager, where you can get a bird's eye view of all your database resources. So obviously I've just launched it, there will be nothing up here at the moment, but you can see now when I just left it go for a couple of minutes, you can see I get a nice clear dashboard about database activity. And now you also have the administration tab where you can get a really clear picture. I'm not going to look at Oracle machine learning users today because that is something that you can also do, but it will take nearly a couple of hours to get that. To explain that. So there's plenty of demo labs with the data warehouse, which I would encourage you to do. I'm a great fan of just going on GitHub and looking at tutorials. So you can see here there's plenty of tutorials in the Oracle Learning Library. So I'm just going to take a sample insert command, a sample select command, and I'm going to run that against my data warehouse. So obviously there's a couple of million rows in here, so I'm not sure how long it will take, but let's just run that and see what happens, because it should come up now in a second. So I have my results here. Obviously it's going to be a large amount of data. These are just kind of dummy tests I'm doing at the moment. So if I just hit activity, that should be represented in the SQL statements. So you can see here there's an uprise in the in my CPU utilization. So I'm just kind of flicking around here just to show you. And obviously if that SQL query was a bit slow returning back information to me. So if you see what I did there, I just scaled up to 2 CPUs. And you can see I do not have to stop the database and put it on new hardware. I can literally scale up and continue to use the database. So that's really, really good. And so obviously when I hit that query again, it should return a lot faster. So I'm just showing you here. So our 2 CPUs should pop up here now in a second. So you can see here now my graph is showing that it's dealing better with the query. And while I can run any query that I want, what I really want to talk about is the analytics tools that you have an option to do. So I've seen a couple of demos about connecting to the Oracle Data Warehouse, and to be honest, I didn't think they were that straightforward. So I just wanted to record this today just to show you an example of how quickly I got all of this set up. So with Oracle Analytics Cloud, you have a couple of different editions, Standard, Enterprise, and Data Lake. You don't really need to know any of that, but we'll just have a look at how easy it is to connect. So I'm going to use Data Visualization Desktop, which is a desktop tool from Oracle just for data visualization. To connect to the data warehouse and just bring in some of that data to show you how quick it can be. So I'm just going to look at one of the sample projects. So this is one of your sample projects that comes pre-built with SQL Developer, just to give you an example of some of the graphs that you can build and the information that you can give to end users. So obviously I'm running all of this off my laptop here at the moment, so it may be a bit slow. I really like these kind of heat maps that you can design, and I really drill onto just on your customer base or whatever you really want to achieve, really. But the whole greatness of this is just load data either by data pump, or if you want to take an RMAN backup to object storage, straight into the data warehouse. So now I'm going to just configure a connection to the data warehouse. You can see all the pre-built connectors in data visualization, Oracle data visualization. Two most noteworthy would be JDBC for Java connections and ODBC for the Microsoft connections. So I'm just going to configure my connection here. Let's just call it DB test. And that folder that you downloaded through the console is going to come in really important in here. And this is where I just want to explain. So I'm just going to grab that folder from my desktop, and if you can see here, I hope you can see on the screen, in our TNS names.r file, you might get a fright with the amount of information here, but it's really good information. So this defines your role, your host, and your URL to point to for your connection. So I'm just going to put in my host, which I got from the file, and I'm going to put in port 1522. And in the client credentials file, you need to upload that cwwallet.sso file just for connectivity. And the username, you can put in admin, and really important. So I always make a note of the password that I used in the console. Just take a note of it, because that's the same password that you have to use. And then in service name, we're going to have to go back into that tnsnames.r file, and we can get it in here. Just make a note of that, copy it in, and just make sure that you're using one of the correct service names. I have the documentation that I followed, so this should connect, hopefully. Just connect now. Yeah, okay, so we've connected to the data warehouse. So really quickly, we've configured a BI tool to a data warehouse. Really, really good. So what I want to do now is create a data set. So what I'm going to do is create, first of all, I have my connection already done, so I'm going to choose that as a source. So my data warehouse in the cloud is a source, and in here you can see all the different pre-built data that's built into the data warehouse, just to give you a taste of how easy this can be. So I'm just going to, if you want the table SSB, there's some sample documentation. So I'm just going to bring in some of this into my data visualization desktop. Bring it in, and we can see what we can build. I probably won't spend too much time on the analytics piece, because that would not be my area, but my data is in. And if you can see up in the top right here, Oracle's embedding AI into most of their applications. So you can see I have some recommendations on how I can further filter the data, and if I want to pre-build some data flows. So let me just create one more data set from my data warehouse connection. So you can see how quick this really is, even if you have a massive database on premise. If you just want to migrate it up to object storage, like you can even go to Amazon S3. That's typically where a lot of customers have started off, and you can migrate that to Oracle Cloud Object Storage and bring it into the data warehouse from there. So all you need is an auth token and the URL to the OCI object storage. So I have another data set brought in here, so hopefully now we can just create one simple graph to show you how quickly I got all of this up and running in under 15 minutes. And obviously there is a large amount of built-in tools in the Oracle Analytic products that I won't have time to go through all of them today. So this is just really just to show how quickly you can set up a data warehouse and then plug in your preferred BI tool. So if I just go now, I actually have to go and visualize this. So I'm just going to drag some random attributes onto the desktop. What I really should do is I should create a join between the customer key and probably the part key I can see down below. That's probably what I should do to make these two data sets link to each other. But just for the demo, I'm just going to just drag some stuff onto the canvas here. But it's more just to show how quickly you can get set up and working with the Oracle products. So I do hope you enjoyed this today. I'm just going to go back to my DB console, so you can see my DB is still up, and it's automatically created a backup, which is really good, up to object storage. So you get automatic backups, and you can see some of my SQL queries here still actively being monitored. I did one long query offline, and you can see that is still running. And you can see all my SQL interactivity is being monitored, which is really good for administrators. So this is just more of a bird's eye view of what's possible with the Oracle Data Warehouse, and I thank you very much for joining today.